Many thanks, Nicole, and many thanks to all the people that have actually seen this conference to this point, which is obviously the last couple of presentations. It's much appreciated to have faces in the audience. I'll just pause on this particular slide. I presented at ADU with Pay Dirt about a month ago, and notably the actual title was Expiration Underway. Now, exploration and drilling are one and the same, but I'm very happy to report that we're now in that phase of the exciting bit, which is actually drilling. I actually had some words of wisdom given to me, an old bloke today. He's not in the crowd here, but he actually said, look, keep it simple and just say why you're doing what you're doing. And if you pause on this slide, what we are looking at doing is uncovering another really big asset with good grade in an area that has already demonstrated it's got the capabilities of hosting something like that. So I'm going to try and set the scene a little bit. I've noticed that most of the presentations here over the last couple of days have been very rich in their understandings of what happens in Western Australia and Australia, and other than when Brett introduced Lynn Lake in Canada, it's been very Australia focused, which is a good thing. So I'm an Australian as well, but I like to think that with the work that we're doing in Africa, it also demonstrates that these opportunities extend to other places in the world. I won't touch on the uranium opportunities that we've got, but it's fair to say that we are quite blessed in the sense that we've got both uranium and nickel in our portfolio. A key point here is that we have a dominant position in the East African nickel belt. It's not one entity or another, but we actually have the opportunity to participate in what's going to be a re-rate of this whole area as a hub of discovery and production. And I'll explain why that's the case. Like all the other gentlemen here thus far, I've actually mentioned that it all comes back to hard work and understanding what you know and understanding what you don't know. So I think probably what we've tried to introduce and actually maintain as a backbone of how we've gone about doing things is to understand what we've got, introduce a methodology, and have a considered exploration program that taps into those things that we do know and what we don't know. Unlike Brett, we've actually had quite a bit of success with gravity. And that's going to be a feature of this presentation. We're now, like I said, moving to this exciting phase, which is going to be drilling, and we plan to do both diamond and RC drilling over the next 3 months and beyond, with success that we're hopefully going to generate. And that's really been driven from the successes we've had with not only the gravity, but the Heli-EM program that we just completed. If you're moving into a new area outside of Australia, you need to have a beachhead, you need to have people that understand the lay of the land. And I'm very happy to say that we've got that in spades with myself, Grant Pearce, John Hicks with the Discovery under his name. So we've actually got a record with African experience and discovery. We are fully funded. We've actually just completed a very successful capital raising program, raising up to $3 million, and they have attaching options that go with it, which you'll see in this slide here. So we're looking to actually introduce approximately another $2.45 million over the next 12 months and upwards of that. I've touched on Grant's experience. I won't dwell on that. He's heading back over to Tanzania. He's there to renew and refresh his long-standing relationships with people over there, and that is gold in what we're trying to do, which is looking for nickel, mixing commodities there. But I think that's very important to feature in this narrative, that you've got to have those sorts of experiences. Nicole's touched on my experiences. I'm a corporate guy. John is a technical fellow. He decided he wanted to retire, then he joined Adavale, and I think he's probably been as busy as he's ever been, which is fabulous for us and fabulous for all the stakeholders. Rounding out our team, Alan Ritchie and Leonard Math, they've got the requisite experience as CEO and company, our company's financial officer. Just touching on our profile with regards to market cap and cash available and cash and liquids. Circa $16 million market cap. That means that with $3.5 million in our treasury, we're looking to do some damage with the drill bit now. A little bit of context and a bit of background. We're looking at a couple of areas in the world. I haven't actually coloured a slide in there around Western Australia. I haven't been very fair there. Everyone knows it's a very rich province for nickel sulphide. But we're looking at those other opportunities that sit outside that known opportunity set. You look to those parties that have actually transacted recently, which is Wyloo with Naront, and then you look further afield in other areas that do actually demonstrate this prospectivity, which is where we see Kabanga and BHP taking positions in Tanzania, exactly where we are. I don't want to touch on too much regarding the thematics and the dynamics regarding the needs for nickel sulfide to feature in discovery. We see what Telstra wants. We see that BHP is a big mover. We also see that the country dynamics in which we're operating now are starting to line up. There's a few headlines there which I won't dwell on, but it essentially says that we've got the planets aligning for us. And we see that as a renewal of Tanzania as a destination of opportunity. And we're seeing a number of those parties that you see on the right-hand side of the screen receiving approvals to proceed with their projects, and they are across a number of different commodities. I touched on BHP. BHP has made, in our books, a reasonably significant investment in this area. It's about $90 million in the project proper and $10 million in the technology. It's small money for them, but it's a big endorsement of what they're doing. And particularly the relevance of that is that BHP discovered all that we're seeing at Kabanga and around where we are. And I think that 1990s era was basically touched on with some unfortunate events in that province, and that meant that they did depart. I'm very happy to say that they're now back in there, and that's a strong endorsement from what we've seen. A little bit about our projects. We've named it Kabanga Jirani, which is brother, and we've also put up there the fact that we've also got a Lahuma deposit. We didn't intend to actually ringbark Kabanga, but that's basically what we've done with the ground holdings we've got there. And by way of the extension, we've looked to move further north, up where Barugi is and Ruiza, but also introducing this opportunity around Lahuma. The area is basically, like I mentioned, the East African Nickel Belt. And I think that we've simply come back to this particular place and this location on the basis of its prospectivity. Kabanga, ballpark numbers are circa 60 million tonnes at 2.6%. People might argue that's a little bit bigger and it's a better grade, but essentially it's big, it's tasty, and those are the sort of grade opportunities that you want to see in opportunities that we could unlock here. By way of background, it's 100% licence holdings with the exception of Lahuma, which we're moving towards a 65%, then an 80% ownership, and we have the potential to take out 100% of that. It's a big ground holding, it's 1,200 square kilometres. We have actually maintained our focus in the southern part, or the southern region, and that's circa 1,000 square kilometres. You can see that the age is actually relevant. We've left that up on the slide because it features in what we see in other deposits, Kabanga and like. So it's the right age and rock tops that we're seeing in this particular embayment. Relativities with regards to Thompson's, Raglan, Voisey Bay in Canada, and probably Nova and Albany Fraser Range in Western Australia. As I mentioned, now drilling for those high priority conductors that we've identified. It's been a little bit of a journey. The ground holdings were secured back in August and November of 2020. We've moved quickly for the requisite field exploration, some early term drilling, which was more demonstrating the prospectivity rather than the focus that we've now got. Gravity seemed to be a tipping point for us. That came into the program back in November 21. It was also the catalyst for us to proceed with the acquisition of Lahuma by way of a farm-in. We decided that the gravity should be now introduced over a wider area. As you'll see, we've gone down to about 1,000 square kilometres by way of area that we have undertaken the gravity survey. The heli meant that we were focusing in and honing in on those high priority areas. So we've gone from 1,000 square kilometres to 200 square kilometres. We're presently ranking those. There should be no confusion about how many anomalies that we've got here. At the moment, we've only been selective. We have a lot more anomalies that we have not done the heli and we haven't focused in at this point in time. So to say we've got a rich array of opportunities is an understatement. Our early term initial drilling will be between 6,000 to 8,000 metres of RC and diamond. And the objective, like everything, and the board and all the stakeholders are looking at what focuses we've got. We want to get to the stage where we've got the best chance of getting a resource by this time next year. So we need to get pretty busy. I won't labour on this. Everyone's pretty aware what the program you have to go through to work out where you need to start your campaign drilling in all earnest. It's a process, it's a ranking, it's a priority. So we're working through those that clinical methodology to get to the point where we are now drilling. I might have mentioned that we actually had a tipping point in a discovery which we've called Target 7 around November 21. And that really meant that we were focusing in on a trend that was established at a known mineralised hole, Lahuma 6. So we're looking to see that trend extend down to where we are. We put a Pathfinder hole in there. We got the results we wanted. We've gone back and now we're starting to develop the program that we've got ahead of us. A little bit about the gravity. We didn't have access to information relating to our neighbour, so we re-engineered that and we came up with a methodology which indicates and models what we would be finding if we found a Kabanga, North, Main and Tembo. And the reason why that's significant is because we've got a threshold level there. We're sitting at around about anything above 0.75 means that we're onto something really, really interesting. So we've used that. The other thing I might also add there is that both Main and North were discovered because they were outcropping. It's a lot easier to find those and then do the drilling associated with it. It took something like 13 years later for them to discover Tembo. And that's really interesting because that was a blind deposit, looks like a flat-laying worm, because it is. But that actually features something like 13 million tonnes in the overall resource that they've now got. Armed with that, we undertook the gravity program. I won't dwell on this too much. It was very comprehensive, 24,000 gravity surveys over that area. We got a number of interesting outcomes from that. The strike length from that survey was of roughly 55 kilometres, pretty big. We've actually focused in on the HM around 18 of the 32 anomalies that we picked up on. So it's to say that we've got some latent opportunity there is also should be a feature of people's thinking as to what latent opportunity we do have. The Heli, very successful program. We introduced that over those 9 areas, 2,000 line kilometres, 200 square kilometres. This is the feature of where we've gone to with this program. We've identified and prioritised those areas for drilling. We like to have the coincident anomalies, both the gravity, the EM targets, and where they're located. And it looks as though that's going to keep us rather busy for a while. We are looking to actually undertake drilling, drilling's being undertaken right now at HEM2. And there's a nice anomaly there, which if I can just point out. It's about 4.5 megagal. This is really interesting. This is probably going to be featuring one of our first 1 or 2 holes in here and down here. 8 and 9, interestingly, you can see 9 in the same latitude, 8 very similar latitude to Kabanga. So the excitement starts now. Drilling is underway. The drill bit will really be the determinant as to how successful we're going to be with our exploration program. We may hit it in the first couple of holes. It may take longer. But certainly with the program we've got, we think we'd like to unlock some of that expectation and exploration success. It will be high impact. It'll be undertaken within the next 3 months. And I think that those priority anomalies that I've mentioned will be the feature of our focus. But we want to keep a few things fluid because we want to know what's actually happening by way of results. We are likely to use downhole EM to best effect when it presents. The diamond holes will be cased on a as required basis. And we'll actually put down the probes like the other guys have mentioned here to get some real resolution around that. The actual drilling to the RC holes will be about 200 metres. There's a weather profile of about 50 metres. We may actually use those RC holes to do diamond tails to try and make it a little bit more economic and stretch that drilling dollar a bit further. We've always got one thing that we don't understand. We've called it the enigma. It's got some really nice, interesting copper anomalies. We will put an RC hole or 3 into this just to understand it. Like everything, exploration is exploration, and we know what we know on the other areas. This remains a little bit of an unknown. We're also very proud to operate with a social licence in Africa. It's very important, and we've aligned ourselves with 2 organisations, Bridge to Aid and VACA, both which we think are very well deserving of our dollar and our support. Bridge to Way, it's looking at preventing infant oral mutilation. And it's a horrible thing to say that people actually die in this day and age from problematic or wrong diagnosis and actions with regards to dental hygiene. It's crazy. Varka Health is a very, very good professional development that's using technology to train lots of nurses at the coalface. We think it's a great opportunity to be associated with them and to actually push that out. We will be net beneficiaries because it's in that Nangara region, which is where we're operating. I won't labour on this. The investment thesis is very simple. We're where the big guys are finding big stuff. We like to be there. We've got the methodology. We've had some high impact outcomes. We think that the drilling will actually be defining for us, and that'll happen over the next month or 3. Thanks very much for listening, and thanks very much for hanging in there.